There have been many times already in the young history of the Free Forum Project where mention has been made of just how important the First Amendment is, and its true meaning has been alluded to. There have been a few tangents here and there where we have explored bits and pieces of the true meaning behind the amendment and what it really means to have and to experience it. Let's start with the direct language. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press, or the right of the people peaceably to assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. First and foremost is the freedom of religion. That first clause is very important. It prevents Congress from establishing an official religion, so take that with a grain of salt if you're planning on thumping people with Bibles. You have every right to do it, of course, but understand that everyone else also has the right to do the same thing with other religions that are different from your own. This is a major piece that many people overlook. While there are many references to the Christian God within different aspects of the government, writings, architecture, and the like, it doesn't mean we are a nation of Christians. We are a nation of people who have the constitutional right to choose what religion we do or don't want to follow. As a quick tangent here, don't forget the principle of separation of church and state. This concept was well documented by Founding Father Thomas Jefferson, and like the others of his time, chose purposefully to include such language in the Constitution because of how much interference and entanglement there was in that time between government and the church. That's not to say that such problems don't exist currently, but there was a reason the very first line refers to separation of the two. Back on track. Secondly, we move into the freedom of speech and the press. These two are intertwined in many ways. Freedom of speech means that we all enjoy the freedom of expression. One more time, with some emphasis. We, all, enjoy the freedom of expression. Being that this particular concept applies to every citizen within the United States, it would only make sense that once in a while people will say things that we disagree with. While most take that as a challenge, or a means to establish a witch hunt, it truly means the opposite. This is an incredibly important notion to understand for many reasons. The first of which is that through debate and alternative point of views, everyone can explore their capacity to grow. If you are surrounded by individuals and groups that do nothing but imitate and recall the exact same points of view and rhetoric that you project, it is impossible for you to ever experience meaningful growth or adaptive understanding. For example, if you are exclusively surrounded by Christian practitioners and never exposed to Islamic principles, it would be impossible to know the difference between radicalized Islam and true teachings from the Quran, or from modernized practices that differ from hardline views from the past. That means it will always be impossible for you to understand another person's point of view, unless they identify exactly the same way that you do. Also, don't forget that Christianity is the same way. If you aren't familiar with the Old Testament, you should brush up and understand just how barbaric it was. Speaking of this concept draws a concise picture in my mind of non-teachable people. No matter how right you are, and how wrong they can never be taught anything other than what they already know. It's a travesty, really, considering the capacity for understanding and development that each individual possesses. There is so much wasted potential due to close-minded stubbornness and unwillingness to accept another perspective. The ultimate point that must be taken away from this part of the discussion is that you won't always agree with what other people say. When they express themselves, you will hear and read points of view that you may even find offensive. That is the true nature of freedom of speech, freedom of expression, the ability to publicly broadcast ideas. This also means that not everyone can possibly be right. That's why we need to keep our minds open, always continue to learn and grow, continue to adapt, because that is the only way that our society has a hope of moving forward. You may not always like what others have to say, but they have the right to say it. While we all need to respect that right, we need to exercise personal discipline and choice too. From there, we turn to the freedom of the press. No matter what time or country any human has lived in, this is a fundamental need. Imagine a world in which any journalist that spoke out against a regime or brought up legitimate questions was silenced, brutalized, or worse. The most terrifying aspect of that thought is that in some places it happens. With enough power and money, unfortunately, people can get away with some pretty extraordinary things. That being said, it could be much worse, though it shouldn't be. True freedom of the press means that the people, we the people, are kept informed and educated. Well, that's what it should mean. What it really means is that we all have a choice to make. That choice is simply to support and tune into the programming that we think is important, and hope that it isn't wrong. Sadly, we allow unchecked bias to deliver our media, and it makes people all the worse for it. But that is a personal choice we are all making for ourselves. All in all, it's just important to understand the press is meant to keep us informed and prevent those in power from abuse. Thirdly, assembly and petition. As a democracy, and that term is used loosely, we have the right to assemble and petition. We have the right to demand answers and to stand up for our beliefs. This is where it is important to understand others' points of view. Imagine if no one had ever assembled to demand equality or suffrage or equal rights. If we as the people didn't have the right protest for something so important, what a world we could live in. While it is far from perfect, this country could be in far worse condition. I will stress that fact, though, that we still have ample room to grow and much needed progress to make as a nation. Having walked through each of those pieces, there is an urgent takeaway from this broadcast, and that is this. All these rights and guarantees only mean something if we use them. Recently, there was a discussion about social media and whether or not they were infringing on First Amendment rights. Ultimately, they were not, but that doesn't change the power we have, as the people. If there is something happening that we don't agree with, we have the power to change it, so long as we are ready to fight for it and commit to the change. If you don't agree with big corporations and their products, don't give them your money. It may mean more inconvenience for you, no more one-stop shopping, and maybe even higher prices. But if you are committed to fighting big business, that's what has to be done. If you don't agree with policy or procedure with a tech platform or social media outlet, stop using it. When their user base falls apart and they can't survive, they will disappear. Those are two of many possible examples, but the list could go on. In each instance, the circumstance may change, but the avenue to the desired outcome will not. We have to commit to change, and commit to each other. We can't just accept the status quo. One of the big reasons it's so difficult to spot any recent meaningful change is because we are all divided. What's worse, the establishment is the one that divides us further still, then they are the ones who benefit from it. If you look at the pattern of elections and cycles, we continuously shift back and forth between red and blue. One side does poorly, pick the other, then they do poorly, so we loop back around to hit the same side from 2 cycles ago. Our public elections are truly the definition of insanity. Electing the same parties and same line of thought over and over again and expecting different results. We can't just hope for different results. We need to demand it. There is no reason why a people should fear their government. A government should fear their people. Truer words have never been spoken, but until we stand up for ourselves, until we stand as a united front, until we find the capacity to understand each other and see from other points of view, until we accept that we aren't all the same, and that while we have differences, we are still all part of the same people, being taken advantage of by our leaders, we will never see any different results. So consider this an invitation to do just that. Grow, learn, understand. Join the Free Forum Project to explore what we could accomplish. As always, think freely, discuss openly,